Hi, welcome to this Easy Platform GraphQL introduction. First, allow me to describe what GraphQL is. GraphQL is a query language created by Facebook in 2012 that aims at fixing shortcomings in REST APIs. The main issues with REST are underfetching and overfetching. Underfetching is when too little data is returned by resource, meaning that multiple calls are needed to get your data. On mobile applications mostly, it will make the application feel slower and will increase the load on the server. The second issue, overfetching, is when responses from your API contain too much data. Both of these issues have been reported about the Easy Platform REST API over the last years. In the first Easy Platform UI, the UI itself got slower because of the many REST calls that were needed. GraphQL was built to address exactly those issues. Even though it was created by Facebook, last November, the Linux Foundation announced the intention to create an organization to sustain the development of GraphQL in a neutral way, distinct from Facebook. Given that it has been trending for quite a while and has been nominated as one of the key technologies for next year, it is quite clear that the technology is here to stay. For this reason, we have decided to invest energy on creating a GraphQL package for Easy Platform. First, let's go over the installation and configuration of this package. It's going to be brief. The package can be installed over Composer using the references in the blog post, and is configured in a fairly straightforward way. So install the package, add it to your kernel, and configure the routes. With this done, the schema needs to be generated because of the dynamic nature of the Easy Platform repository. The structure of the content needs to be read from the database. There is a command for that will generate a bunch of files in your application config. It has been executed on this repository, the demo repository that is hosted on platform.sh. And as you can see, we get a bunch of YAML files. Those YAML files define the GraphQL schema itself. We can see an example here where with the blog post content type, it has fields for the various fields from the content type itself. GraphQL comes with a UI that allows you to run queries in an interactive way directly from your browser. It is, of course, meant for development, not for production, but it is extremely convenient for developers because it both gives you the ability to execute queries as well as browse the documentation. So this is the root of the GraphQL client that comes with the package. And as you can see on the left side, we can type queries. A GraphQL query kind of looks like JSON, but it's not JSON. It's like the essence of JSON. So you get access to each available item with auto-completion. This is made possible by the schema that is fetched by the tool, and the tool knows what items are available at which level. So at the root level of the Easy Platform GraphQL schema, you will find your content type groups. These are the groups from the Enterprise Edition demo of version 2.3 of Easy Platform. So we get groups we are familiar with, content, users, and media, as well as an extra group for landing page objects. Within those groups, all of the content types that are part of this group are made available in two ways. The first way is collections. So we have a blog post content type And we can see here a blog posts plural. Blog posts will return every item of the blog post content type. You can see here the properties that are available for blog posts. First, we have those properties prefixed with underscore. Those are what I call system properties. They're shortcuts to metadata of your contents. For instance, info is the content info of every content. Location is the main location. Name is the content name, and URL is the alias of the main location of each content item. So if we run this query, we will get the name and main URL alias for every content in the default site access. So yes, the GraphQL API is site access aware. You can easily see that by switching site access on the client. So let's go to the French site access and run the same query. You can see here that translated items are returned in French. So in addition to collection items that return all items, you will also find singular fields for each content type, like blog posts. They will return one item, and of course, to get one item, you will need to provide arguments to it. So those arguments are either the ID, location ID, or remote ID. Again, they are suggested by the graphical client, meaning that you don't need to remember them. So let's say we want to get access to blog posts 215. So in addition to those system fields, we will find one field for each field definition of the content type: title, intro, body, image, and so on. So let's say we want to get the title. Hit again, and we get the title of the blog post with ID 215. As for these fields, you have to know that GraphQL is a very strongly typed query language. Everything is typed. The system comes with native types, such as string, number, Boolean. And when possible, Easy Platform fields will be mapped to a native type. For instance, title is a string. You can see that by hovering on a field, and you see that blog post content.title is a string. As said earlier, the client comes with integrated documentation. You can see that on the right-hand side, the docs thing. If you control-click or command-click on any item, it will give you, well, in that case, its type. Let's see that on the product content type. Product ID 58. It has a few interesting fields. So we saw it earlier, title is going to be a string. Then let's also ask for the price. The price is a float, as well as the gluten property that is a Boolean. So we get the title as a string, get the price as a number, and the checkbox field definition as a Boolean. A lot of Easy Platform field definitions are more complex than just a string or a number. For those, we have custom types. For instance, images. So let's switch to the media content type group. In the media content type group, we have image. We'll just load one. Image 94. And in this content, in addition to the name, a string, we'll also find the image field. And the image field contains the image. We can see here that image is an image field value. It has multiple properties. those properties are more or less exactly the same than the image field type value object. For instance, the file name and file size, as well as the URI. Now, some of these fields have more extra fields. For instance, on an image, a typical use case is that you want to get the variations or a variation from the image. So variation is a field that has arguments. It requires an image variation identifier. If you click on the type, you get the list of the image variation identifiers that is configured for the system. It is also part of the generation process. So let's say that we want to get the variation identified with small. Variation is again an object. It allows you to get the URI, that is, well, the most interesting part of an image. So this should return the image as well as its file name, file size, and the URI to the small variation. Exactly like the image field type, other complex types, such as rich text, have custom properties. So let's go back to our blog posts, ID 215. We have these intro field. Intro is a rich text. For rich text, it is stored as logbook. Usually you want to get the HTML version of it. And that's it. You get the HTML version of your rich text field. A last interesting example is relations. So let's load an article, article 207. Article has, well, title just to see which one we are loading, and a related articles field. Related articles is a content relation field. If we go below the fields, we see that we actually get article content items from this field. The reason is that this field has been configured to only contain article content items. The schema generator is smart enough to know that only articles will be returned, thus offering you the properties of an article directly in the results. And let's say for each article, you want to get its alias, its name, and a thumbnail. And that's it. With one call for one article, you got all three related articles, their alias, the name, and their image. So as for a summary, the schema for the GraphQL Easy Platform implementation is based on your content types. The main thing you're going to query is actually your content. So how good your schema feels is as good as your content model feels. Every field you create with its name, type, and properties will show up as is in the schema. As far as I'm concerned, this way of querying for content feels very, very natural. Of course, there is much more than what was shown here. For instance, you can filter those collections to only get certain items. You can also sort them. It also has support for your content types. It also has support for landing page. But this will be in a further video. In the meantime, know that GraphQL will be part of the 2.4 release as an experimental package. It will be shipped in the demo versions of Easy Platform, not in the kernel itself. but it should be part of version 2.5. In any case, feel free to install it. You can also play with the hosted demos that are on Platform SH. You will find the links in the blog posts. And in the meantime, thank you very much for your attention.